the Hungary has been experiencing a lot of political pressure to the independent players of the media sector. And now I want to give the floor to Gergely Nyilas from Telex, who will tell us a story of how to live through a political takeover and come out stronger. Gergely, please, the floor to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Well, I can provide a written part of the presentation, so you have to enjoy my attractive head. Maybe I should have downloaded the cat filter, but now we will go without that. So the situation definitely is different, of course, if we compare it with Turkey, Russia, or Belarus. Of course, Hungarian journalists are not under physical threat. For example, we still somehow have our shrinking field of independent media. But if I compare the simplicity of the pro-governmental message of public TV and state radio, then I think we have already reached Belarus in that sense. But when it comes to everyday practice of the police, of course you can't compare it. So in that sense, we are not under the threat, and we still able to work. But it's getting harder and harder year by year, because the government, what we have, which has been here for 10 years now, Viktor Orban's government, has been trying to occupy more and more independent media. I used to work for Népszabadság first, which used to be the biggest daily newspaper, political daily newspaper in the first decade of 2000. But it doesn't exist anymore, because they closed it in 2016. And shortly I describe that situation too, because it explains a lot about the strategy of the government. Because it always seems business as usual. It's always rely on the law. It's not a pure violation of the law, but it's a sophisticated violation of the law, what we see in Hungary. So in case of Népszabadság, which used to be the biggest political newspaper, the printed one, I mean, it has a 60 years of history. There was an Axel Springer and Ringier. Ringier was the owner of Népszabadság, and Axel Springer and Ringier, they owned a lot of media in Hungary. They wanted to merge into one company, and the authority which is responsible for the monopoly banned the fusion, demanding from Ringier sell Népszabadság and some county regional newspapers. And then without that package, Ringier and Axel Springer could merge into one. So what happened, that Ringier sold Népszabadság and a lot of county newspapers to Henrik Petzina, who was an Austrian businessman. And then those media he purchased, he merged them into one holding called MediaWorks. And in 2016, so in 2016, suddenly he closed Népszabadság. So it was made by the hand of an Austrian businessman. Although a year later in Austria, he was charged for 22 months in jail. It was suspended because of dishonest treatment and embezzlement due to other business, but I think it characterized his way of business. So after he closed Népszabadság, the rest of the media he had purchased sold to a businessman who is loyal to the government, to Viktor Orban, to Lőrinc Mészáros. He's one of the richest men now in Hungary. So in that situation, they got rid of a quite critical and formerly quite influential newspaper with the hand of an Austrian businessman. And the other case is, I left before the Népszabadság was closed. I went to Index, which has been the most influential internet site for 20 years. It was launched in 2000, in 1999, and it's been always critical toward the acting government. So when there were socialists, it was critical towards socialists, of course, and then Fidesz, the conservative party, which is the governmental party now, said it was reliable newspaper. They quoted it in a parliament as an argument when they wanted to blame the socialist government in some cases. And after that, in 2010, we had new elections, and the Fidesz won two-thirds with two-third majority in the parliament. And after that, the process has started. The government started to increase its influence to all the fields of media, beside the public state media, state TV and state radio. Beside that, they had TV2, which is a commercial TV, but it's also belonged to loyal to the government, to one, let's say oligarch. And from MediaWorks and from other media, they organized a new holding called KESMA, Central European Media, whatever the Hungarian abbreviature is, KESMA. What is important, and why I described previously the situation with Népszabadság, that this time when over 500 media, including all county regional newspapers, merged into one holding, the council, the authority which is responsible for the monopoly, did not influence. But again, it was made by the law, because the government, via a resolution, gave to this project status of strategical national importance. And in that case, the authorities that are responsible for the monopoly can't intervene. So again, according to the rules, but you, as a government, having majority more than two-thirds, you can frame and form and transform the rules as it comfortable for yourself. And this is what see with the fight against of the government's fight against those media who are not pro-governmental. It always seems like business as usual. When it comes to advertisement, it's on commercial base. But most of the sales houses that are responsible for selling the advertisement of certain newspapers, they are loyal to the government. They are owned by the businessmen who are loyal to the government, and they don't really sell it effectively when it comes to non-governmental or media that are not loyal to the government. Business as usual. Oh, well, we have no advertisement, we couldn't sell, so you have to survive somehow with a budget that is lower and lower. And in Index, still, we had the same problem in Index with the sales house. There was a lack of trust, of course. We understood that they don't work effectively. And beside that, Index had always been in a quite complicated network of ownership and some hidden contracts that came up in an important moment when you wanted to get rid of some loan and get some financial freedom. They always showed some contract which again made your financial situation harder. So we, even in Index, with all my colleagues, when we were there, we've always thought about, so we had a wish to organize a new media which is independent from those circumstances. But the red line, really the red line was crossed in last summer when the yeah. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm giving you a 3-minute warning because we are a bit running out of time, but
Yeah, okay. So the red line was crossing when they fired the editor-in-chief after the sales house already openly went to the hand of a businessman who is loyal to the government. Miklos Vasily, he's a 50% owner. He transformed TV2 into a pro-governmental tool. Origo, he transformed into a pro-governmental newspaper. He was the head of a pro-governmental Echo TV. He was the head of pro-governmental Public TV. So we know his track, and we understood what we can expect from him. So that's why it was a quite splendid moment, I think, in Hungarian media history, that all of us left from Index all of a sudden. At the same time, it's over 80 journalists and staff, and I think that was a surprising moment for the government and for those who were loyal to the government. And within 2 months, we could launch Telex. That was a huge work of a small group of our team, 5 of us. I wasn't there from the very beginning of organizing the new media, Telex, but we could launch it, and we could launch it. Why? Because the situation has changed, and the way of thinking of people has changed, and now most of the people, or a lot of people, ready to pay for the content. Meanwhile, before, it was for free, and you had to survive on advertisements. Now the situation has changed, and the people are more, they have more consciousness about maintaining a newspaper. If you want to have an independent one, then you have to support it. Now we have over 40,000 supporters. The access is free. Are you there? You just disappeared. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. So now we have over 40,000 supporters. We call it supporters, not subscribers, because the access is free. And that's an important part of, let's say, mission, that we have to keep the more access as possible, because it's not only a business model. If we have 40,000 subscribers, and if there is no free access for our news, then it's not a mission. It's not important for us. For us, important to be available for a wide range of auditory. And now it seems to be financially possible, thanks to those supporters, ordinary people who are ready to support with 10, 15 euros per month. And that is the greatest achievement, all of this story of Telex, not because itself, not because we could save our workplaces and we have our salaries, but because it shows a model, and it proved that it is possible now to get rid of sales houses as much as possible, try to get directly people and convince them that if they want to save the shrinking field of free media press, then they have to financially support and pay not only us, of course, I mean, all the other, those media that consider to be independent. Yeah, with the advertisement, this last thing, the outdoor advertisement, we can't advertise. And there was a story with HVG, which is a daily, weekly newspaper. They had a contract with a company that was responsible for the outdoor advertisements. The front page was the advertisement itself. It always had some political message, of course. The advertisement, usually it was critical to the government, let it be the socialist or the conservative, what we have now. But this company, which was responsible for the outdoor advertisement, again, it belongs to the same businessman I mentioned, Lőrinc Mészáros, the richest friend of Viktor Orban, and they just canceled this advertisement. And HVG, since then, this daily weekly newspaper cannot advertise outdoors, so you can't see those messages they have now. And this is what we have now. But beside that, there is no physical threat at the moment, but we have very hostile approach attitude toward us from the government. In rhetorically, they always treat us as we are enemies. We are Soros agents. We are part of. When we got support Telex from Czech Republic, they said, "Oh, that must be the Czech Soros." So in the pro-governmental newspapers, he is the Czech Soros who promised some financial support to Telex. And it works, unfortunately, at the moment, as I see, let's say 40% of the society ready to support the government, and they really believe that we are not independent, but we depend on others outside of the government. But still, we are under the influence of some hidden shadow organizations, and this hostile attitude towards us is very dangerous, because I'm afraid that that might lead to the steps against journalists, what we see in Turkey or even in Belarus now. So the vector is might be the same. So that's why I'm really afraid of it.